It's not too bad here. Like, I mean, so it's strange because we're going
Whereabouts are
through
you
like a
again?
really warm time right now.
Okay.
So it's been like the summer almost, if it like the same temperatures it would be during the summer.
Well,
But we're supposed to start getting like really cold in the next week, so it's a it's a lot going on.
would it be better for me to have headphones? Actually, I just thought
So,
to avoid feedback and that.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No, I can't hear you.
Oh. Okay, one sec.
Okay.
Oh, that's annoying.
Okay, hold on. It's on my end. I got it. You're good.
You good?
Yeah, we're good. It was on my end.
Oh, okay.
I was like, wait a
Well,
minute, what?
if there's any feedback or anything, I have these as well if needed.
Okay. No, it was on. I'm sitting here. I'm like, I just heard her a second ago. What happened? And then, yeah. So,
Oh, okay.
anyways, we are good though. Maybe this. All right. So, if you're ready to go, we'll get this thing started.
I'm ready.
Cool. All right. Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Vic Allen join us. How's it going today?
It's going well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited to sit down and chat with you. I know we've been talking about doing this one for a little bit, and it was just kind of a matter of trying to find the right time and place to get you in. And, excited to get back on these early morning podcasts. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so especially during the week, because I did them really regularly during the pandemic when I was working from home. So it was just like, okay, I can do them in the morning because then I can just kind of chill afterwards. But as the pandemic kind of subsided, I stopped doing them early in the morning, and then but I'm glad to be back. So
Well, thanks for making the early morning.
yeah, it's all good. So you're based out of London. Kind of tell us what it was like for you growing up in London, what your upbringing was. Give us a little bit of background about yourself.
So I'm actually not from London.
Okay.
I'm from Norwich, which is it's like 2 hours northeast of London. So I grew up there and I moved to London in 2019 for a
Okay.
year, and then I moved back home for the pandemic, which I thought would be 3 months, and it wasn't. It was much longer than that. And then I just managed to move back here in August.
Okay.
So I've been back here like a few months now.
Gotcha. And what's it feel like to be back after the pandemic?
It's really nice, actually. It feels a lot more like connected.
Mm-hmm.
So where I'm from, it is a city, but it's quite a small city, and it's like a bit kind of tucked out of the way to like the east of the country, and it's just being there is kind of difficult when you want to be going to shows regularly and like networking with people and heading to the studio and doing co-writes, all that stuff. Like you need to be in London really, because feels like that's where everyone is, or most people are anyway. So it's nice, like it just feels really connected. Like if I suddenly want to go to a show, I don't have to think like, oh, I've got to book a train in a hotel, or who can I stay with because I live here. So that's really nice.
That's the current puzzle I'm trying to solve for myself, because I'm trying to plan a trip to come out to the UK in April, and I got to try and get from London to the South Coast.
Okay.
And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm sure there's buses and trains and stuff that I could take, but just trying to figure all that stuff out. So that's fun and exciting. So
that's cool though. That'll be an exciting trip.
Yeah, considering I've never been out of the country, or well, I guess technically I've been out of the country, but I've never been to Europe in general, to that side of the world. So but no, that's cool. And it's really interesting that you say that it feels like everybody's in London, because I'm starting to I've talked to a lot of musicians from the UK, and some of them are in Liverpool, some of them are down in they're just kind of all over the place. and they don't ever really bring up that aspect of feeling like they need to be in London. But then again,
Mm.
I guess they probably just, you know, they just don't, it's a regular routine for them to just like, oh, I've got to go to London today. So, it's it was kind of interesting that you brought that up. And how was it always kind of the plan for you to relocate to London, or was it just something once you started taking music kind of seriously, it was like, oh, hey, this is
Um, I don't really know when it was I decided to move. I think after, because I went to uni, um, and I wasn't really sure what to do
Mhm.
after uni and where to go, and I kind of just wanted to travel really.
Yeah.
So I did some traveling after uni, and I was back home for a bit, and then one of my friends actually was still living with her parents. So I moved
Mhm.
in. They had like a spare room, and I
Yeah.
actually lived with her and her parents for like a year.
Oh well.
And I think being there for a year gave me a taste of London and what it's like to be there. And I realized
Yeah.
it's really fun and I really enjoyed it. So then after like throughout lockdown, I wasn't quite sure because obviously I had to leave London for a while. And then I was like,
Mhm.
actually, do I want to go back? Do I want to face rush hour, pedestrian traffic
Yeah.
and being squeezed on the tube and like really high prices of everything? Um, so after in like January 2022, so
Mhm.
last year when everything was mostly lifting,
Yeah.
I actually did like the first half of the year I was just abroad. I just did
Mhm.
some like because I work freelance now, so I can work from wherever. So
Yes.
I just wasn't paying rent because I was with my parents for a while, so I decided to try out the digital nomad life for a bit. So I did
Yes.
that for the first half of the year, and then another friend of mine said she had a spare room going, so I took it as a sign, and I was like, okay, it's time to head back to London for a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've
How
been here
did
since.
Nice. How did you like the digital nomad life, as you like to call it?
Oh, I loved it. It's the best thing ever. And I think about you know, doing it again. It's difficult because I want both. I want like
Mm.
a base, but I also want to travel a lot. But
Mm.
obviously, unless I'm loaded, which I'm not, I can't do that. So it's just
Yeah.
kind of deciding what's right for me right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been trying to I've been looking at opportunities to go a little bit more nomad because I've got family that lives all over the states, and they're like, how come you only come around Christmas and like the major holidays? And it's like, because I live 18 hours away, I can't afford
Yeah.
to just like randomly come out there. And so if I, in my head at least, it's like, well, if I have a digital job where I can work remote, if I want to go live in 6 months in Florida, cool, I'm gonna do it. So, you know,
Do it.
it's not as easy to kind of convert and do freelance work because you're competing with people all over the world that do the exact same thing. So, but um, so is that kind of when you uh so during this time, during the 6 months of last year while you were kind of living abroad and just out and about, is that when you went to like Joshua Tree and shot the music video and all this stuff for the
That was
upcoming?
actually a separate trip. So that was
Okay.
in September.
Okay.
So by that point, I had actually moved to London.
Okay.
So that was a road trip me and my brother took. So basically, we did one. I think in 2018, we did a road
Hmm.
trip. We
Gotcha.
talk about it almost every day. We always send each other pictures like, oh, do you remember this random gas station we found? Or that it was just like such a great time.
Nice. Oh,
And we always said like that we were going to do it again. So this year we finally did it again.
nice.
We
That's
took a slightly different route, but visited some old favorites like Joshua
mm,
Tree. And that was like, I don't know why. I think maybe because of the U2 album, the
mhm,
Joshua Tree.
mhm.
I think like my dad and my brother used to always talk about it growing up and listen to it growing up. So like the first time I ever saw a Joshua Tree, I thought it was like such a cool thing. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's like what the album is.
Yeah.
So it was a really cool place to go,
Mm,
and just it's nice because I've got my artwork's shot in Joshua Tree National Park. So
mhm. Yeah.
that was really fun doing that.
Because I was watching some of your it was Instagram. Yeah, I was watching some of your Instagram posts kind of explaining some of the I think it was when you were showing the actual album for your debut album that drops next Friday. Yeah, that's the 27th.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my
Yeah.
God. So soon.
I'm sitting here, I'm like, wait a minute. come on, it's early, but you can do math. You know math. So let's jump into the album for and talk about that since we're already kind of on that topic. Tell us how long is this album? Kind of give us the breakdown of the album. How long have you been working on it? You know.
It feels like I've been working on it forever. So most of the tracks are actually already out. It's just I really wanted to have. I've released a lot of singles over the last like couple of years, and I really wanted to have everything together in like one piece. And a lot of these songs were written like kind of around the same time, well, over a time span, and have a sort of theme of traveling and that running through them. So I knew I wanted them all to be on one collective project together.
Gotcha.
So most of them are tracks I've released over the past couple of years, and then the two new ones are actually really old songs. There's a lot. I have so many new songs I've written that I'm really excited to get out, but like they didn't fit this project, and I knew that if I didn't record these older songs, I'd never do anything with them. So Barcelona and Borrowed Time, they're the new ones, and I wrote them a long time ago. But I'm really excited about them.
Nice.
And everything just fits together very nicely, so I'm super excited about it.
Awesome. So when you started releasing the singles, was it the initial intent to build towards the album, or did you kind of get yourself to a point where you're releasing so many singles, it's like, we need to kind of make this a complete project?
I think it was kind of half and half.
Okay.
Like I've always had it in the back of my mind, one day I will release an album, because I still listen to albums. Like I know they're kind of out of fashion now, which I think is a real shame. But like it's just how it is. Like content is consumed so quickly that no one has time to listen to an album. But I grew up, I didn't have Spotify. Obviously, it's not that old. So I grew up listening to like albums on a CD player, and that's kind of how I discovered artists. And so the thought of having all my stuff together on one project was quite important for me. But I have been releasing everything individually over the last couple of years, just because of how things worked out, and also as an independent artist, to drop like 10 songs at once, it's just like it would be such a waste. So I wanted to give most of the tracks like as much life as each track can have. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty common approach for a lot of independent musicians. But to kind of counteract that a little bit, I, like yourself, I do love the full length album and having the full length project. And especially for musicians that are like actively out, like tour, like if you want to call it touring, or, playing shows, I think albums are a little bit more worthwhile, especially like for yourself when you were living abroad. Were you, during that time, were you also out playing music as well, or was it just kind of
it was mostly well, I went to Nashville for 3 months in the spring, and that was like a lot of networking and writing and that kind of thing. But everywhere else I went, I almost feel like I took a bit of a break from music like the first half of this year, and I haven't really of last year actually. So I feel like I've got back into the swing a bit kind of in the last few months.
Gotcha.
But I was releasing.
Yeah, because like during that time, it had like, I think that would have been like the beneficial time, or like in a situation like that where you're out and you're out in different areas, having a full length album is just as beneficial as having singles, because then it's like, oh hey, you're in front of new people every day or every week, like however long you, or whatever time frame you want to use, but you're always in front of new people. Whereas if you had just kind of stayed in London or in the UK and we're just kind of playing like a circuit, if you will, because a lot of musicians kind of get stuck in that circuit where it's like, okay, I'm at T-Bulls on two, and they just got kind of like their run-of-the-mill shows. Yeah, that's where keeping the singles is, like just continuously releasing singles, that's where that kind of plays in. But if you're an artist that's like, okay, I'm in Cardiff on Tuesday, and then next week I'm going to Dublin, like just start naming a bunch of stuff, and that it like you just kind of, you're always switching it up. The album is just as beneficial as having singles, at least in my opinion. So
yeah, I think it's nice to have, and it's, you know, nice to have like merch for
Mm,
fans to buy as well. Like I've had the
yeah,
same EP knocking around for the last like 2 or 3 years. So
yeah, for sure. Um, let's take a step back before we dive a little bit deeper into the album. You brought up your dad and the U2 album that kind of got you. Was that like your first introduction into music, or who kind of introduced you to the idea of being able to? Or no, that's two separate questions. Who first introduced you to music? That's two separate questions. Who
okay.
first introduced you to music? Let's go there.
Um so I think I really started getting into music and like religiously listening to music. It's kind of like end of middle school, start of high school, when you know you get like an angsty teen and everything's a bit stressful. And I have three older siblings, and they were all into you know, a lot of bands like Goo Goo Dolls, Jimmy Eat World,
Mhm,
Green Day. Green Day were my like absolute God. I was obsessed, unhealthily obsessed with Green Day throughout high school. So that was the kind of stuff I listened to, and I that's when I really, really like music became very important to me.
mhm,
And I had a this was like the days before, like pre iPod,
mhm.
where people had MP3. People were starting to get like little MP3 players, but
Yep.
I had an actual CD player, so it was like a flat disc
Mm,
thing, and you put a CD in, and you could like I listened to it on the bus to
yeah,
school.
yeah.
I was super cool, obviously,
I
and
I remember those
yeah, so
days.
it was very important to me. Music. It was like I found it. I used to keep a diary, and I still have all these diaries from when I
Mm,
was in high school, and you know, thought my life was so hard, and I sometimes read through them, and I'd occasionally write like song lyrics that
mhm.
I'd like heard in a Green Day song or something that really spoke to me, you know, about love or whatever.
Yeah,
Not that I knew anything about it, but that was when, you know, music became very big part of my life.
yeah, for sure. I will say, growing up, all the cool kids had all the cool kids that were like really new music outside of like the standard top 40, they all had the Dookie album. And like that
Oh
was
yeah.
if you could tell they were cool when they were just like, oh, I'm listening to or you just saw the album cover. It's like, oh, that person's cool. They know exactly what they're talking about. And yeah, so
I remember I was actually like I was annoyed when so Green Day got like massive when American Idiot came out.
mhm, yeah.
And by that point, I was already like a huge fan. And then suddenly everyone was into Green Day, and I was like one of these losers that was like annoyed with everyone because Green Day were like my thing.
Yeah.
And then suddenly everyone else like was into them.
Yeah, it was like you were into them before they got popular, and then they got popular, and it's like, yeah, that's so funny. But oh, and then so this was before your dad kind of introduced you to the Joshua Tree album that you were talking
No,
about,
I
or was
mean
that
that was just something I knew of growing
okay?
up. Like I never
Gotcha.
really listened to U2 a lot growing up. I just always knew that my dad and brother used to listen to this album, and that it was called the Joshua Tree, and that these Joshua trees like only grow in this certain part of the world.
Mm,
They always used to say like, "Oh, imagine like camping in the desert under the stars with Joshua trees," and I was like, "Where is this place? It sounds amazing."
yeah,
And then being out there, I was like, "Oh wow, this is like actually like another world."
gotcha, gotcha. And so at going through that, and then where did you kind of start to get the itch of playing music, or who introduced you to that idea?
So I always played instruments growing up. Like I
Mm,
played clarinet when I was in middle school, and then I played saxophone. And then when I was, I don't know, like 17, 18, my older brother that I road tripped with, he introduced me to John Mayer. So he discovered John Mayer, I think on Spotify actually. Spotify
mm,
had like just come out, and he showed me all his music, and I became literally obsessed. And at the time, I was dating a guy that played guitar, and I
mm,
was always saying to him like, "Oh, you should learn this John Mayer song, learn this John Mayer song." And he was never interested because he didn't like John Mayer. So in the end, I was like, I'm gonna learn these songs instead." So I borrowed my brother's guitar, and I started learning John Mayer songs
mm,
and various other things, and I got really really into it. And then the year before I went to uni, I had a gap year, I had a year out, and I went to America for the first
mm,
time. And I worked on a ranch while I was out there. So I went to
Nice.
this like dude ranch in New York, upstate New York, and stayed there for a couple of months. And everyone there was really into country, and I'd not really listened to country. It wasn't that big a thing here.
Mm.
Um, and I just like discovered all these artists that I'd never heard of. And there was also a girl there that used to she had a guitar, and we used to sit and have like, you know, bonfires in the evening, and she'd sit and like play her guitar around the fire and like sing Taylor
Yeah.
Swift songs and stuff. And I was like, wow, I wish I could do that. And then I don't know, something about that trip and the music that I discovered while I was out there just made me want to make music. And so I went home that summer and basically started like writing songs.
Nice, nice. And at that point, did you know that you could sing, or was that just kind of something that naturally progressed?
No, I was like, I couldn't sing in front of people. I was
Oh,
terrified.
okay.
And I'd like write songs in my room and no one could hear me. And then I think it was when I went to uni. So when I started uni, I was like, actually, I really want to start playing these songs in front of people. So I started
Mhm.
doing open mics, but I'd never tell anyone. I wouldn't tell any of my friends where I was going. I'd go to this open mic so I could like play in front of people that I'd never see again.
Mhm.
And that, you know, that gradually built my confidence up a bit. And then I started going to like 3 a week, and
Mm.
my studies were suffering very much. And I then used to host an open mic on a Friday. And it was really fun, and I became part of like the music scene in the city. It was Bristol. I was at uni in Bristol,
Okay.
so I
Nice.
became, you know, part of the music scene there, which was really fun. And that kind of got me into performing, which
Awesome,
was
awesome. And so going through all this, or traveling, singing, going to school, um, when did you start, like, you started releasing music in, was it 2019, or was it
I think
earlier
it's
than that?
2016 actually.
2016.
Yeah, I
Um,
released.
was that all? How did that kind of all start to unfold? Like, was it like once you started playing music and writing music, it was like, okay, the next logical step is to release it, or yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. It took a while for me to release something, and I wish I could go back and like redo, you know, my
Hmm.
early stuff and like produce it in a different way. But you know, hey ho, it's the past. But I actually I met a guy in Bristol. I think it was through a singing. So I got a vocal coach
Hmm.
in Bristol for a while, and someone she knew like heard my music, and he was really interested in it. And we used to make demos. So we demoed a few tracks, and then it kind of never really went anywhere. So I had like a few of these demos that I never did anything with. I think one of them's on SoundCloud or something. There's a song called like Through the Rain on SoundCloud, which is an old demo that I never did anything with. But then I started, you know, hearing what my music would sound like produced, and I was like, oh my god, I need to actually release some stuff. So I think once I finished uni and I had a bit of money, I put out my first EP, and it's taken a while to like find, because I've worked with some amazing producers,
Hmm.
but the one I'm working with now, I really feel like we're a good fit, and
Hmm.
he gets exactly what my sound is, and he's just really good. So it's taken a while to get to that point where I'm like, yes, I know exactly who I want to work with. But yeah.
Yeah, I gotcha. So coming back to the album, it's you mentioned that it's a bunch of, or it's a lot of singles that have already been released, and it was kind of halfway through releasing the singles that you kind of started building towards the album. Once you kind of had that switch in your mind that, okay, I want to start building towards this album, were you did you had you already known what singles you wanted to release, or when you had that switch, did you kind of become more intentional with what music you wanted to release? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I was already working with my current producer, and we had some tracks that we were already working on, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Drive Through, the two new ones, Borrowed Time and Barcelona, like all of those we were working on. I knew I wanted them to be on this album because I'd written them over like this period of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But then I actually wrote some new stuff. So there's a couple of newer songs in there. Pictures of Us and Confetti, they're both about a breakup, well, from a situationship, like last summer.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of a bit newer. But I was just really excited about those songs, and I wanted to to get them out, and I think they work nicely on the album.
Nice. Okay. 'Cause that's ultimately what I'm building towards is, on albums, there a lot of musicians like to have a certain story told or a cohesiveness between songs. And since you kind of had mentioned that it was like a 50-50 whether you're going to do an album or not, I didn't know if you like once that switch happened, it was like, okay, I need to start being a little bit more intentional with what songs I'm putting out to try and complete a story.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like most of the songs on there are travel inspired. So they're either about like, the feeling of restlessness that I feel all the time,
Mhm.
or they're about experiences I've had or people I've met when I've been traveling. And then there's a couple on there that are just like a little bit different, but I think the songs will work together nicely.
Yeah, I got you. 100% understood. Having been able to listen to all of them, I get where you're coming from on that one. So now that you're a little over a week away from the release, yeah, that's got to be bizarre to hear. You're just a week away from the release. You've got the albums, and things are starting to kind of cement in place. What's kind of running through your head right now?
Um, it's actually kind of exhausting, to be honest.
Very
Like
fair.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited to get everything out. It's just like there's a lot of planning. So I've done a lot of merch for this album.
Hmm.
I've done t-shirts, and I've had obviously got all the actual, I'm pointing over there because I can
Yeah.
see a box on there. I've got all the albums printed. I've done some actual like little pieces of little paintings for
Mhm.
my album launch. And had to like book all the venue and get everything together, book rehearsals. So I'm actually excited for it to just not for it to be over. Obviously, I'm not excited for this point to be over because it's really exciting, but it'll be nice for it to be out and for people to just be able to hear it. I'm just excited for it to be out in the world, really,
Yeah.
and for people to like hold it in their hands.
Yeah. It's going to be one of those situations where it's like, at least from just like having similar experiences of building up to a release, and then it's like, all right, it's out. And then I think you're going to kind of hit that point where it's like, all right, it's out. What do I do now? Like
No.
and it definitely, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of like you spent all this time and you were so committed to like
Yeah.
getting this project out. And it's like, okay. And then you're going to wake up Saturday morning and be like, I should do the no, album's
I
already
mean,
out.
I'm already so excited about like the new stuff that
Mhm.
we're gonna start working on. I went to the studio on 2nd of January, so started
Oh,
the new year on a high. It was good, and we went through like all the tracks that I'd like to work on over the next few months,
hmm,
and just like seeing, we were creating this like document of like the different tracks we're doing, and just seeing that all laid out, I was
yeah,
like actually really exciting, like
nice.
because some of these, as I said, like some of them are pretty old, um, but I knew that I wanted to get them out,
Hmm.
um, and so I'm excited to be able to work on some stuff that's new to me.
Gotcha. And that was definitely going to be a point of topic to bring up, but I didn't want to push it quite that as hard about what's next. But just the fact that you have um something in the mind as far as a project, whether it's singles, another, like I guess
Yeah.
it would be really hard to think like I haven't even released this first album. Why am I thinking about the second album? But
Oh no, I'm already thinking about.
um before we kind of get to the future and what's going on, let's not gloss over the fact that you released a music video for Suitcase, which was
Mm.
the last single, right? Yeah, last
Yeah,
single
that's the
that you
most
were.
recent thing I released. I think I released it in November.
Yeah. And so you got a music video out for that. It's been out a little less than a week, I think, right?
I think so. I've lost track.
Hey, it happens. I 100% understand that one. Uh, w- was it something? Is this your first music video, or have you? No, Have you done music videos before?
I've done quite a few. I mean, I do in general. I do like I make my own videos, so a lot of them
Mm,
are very much like homemade style
gotcha.
videos. So like um quite a few of them are, you know, videos from road trips and things like that.
Gotcha.
Like the video for Enough is similar. But I think they're fun to make,
Mhm.
and I think some of my favorite music videos are, you know, not the super high budget ones anyway.
Yeah. That
Um,
that's where
yeah,
you
the
see
fun
like the
stuff
real
fun.
that's where you see like the real creativeness though. Like
Yeah,
when musicians are like, okay, I've got a cell phone and I've got two friends. Let's see what we can do, you know?
yeah.
So um how eh, how long had you been working on the music video for Suitcase?
Like, how long did it take to edit?
No, like just from like the I knowing you wanted to do a music video for Suitcase to actually like releasing it.
Oh, I guess when I wrote the song, I thought like, oh, this would be a really cool song to have a video for, and I just wanted it to. I wanted the video to just basically give a feeling of like
Mm,
freedom that you feel when you're
mhm,
on the road and just not knowing where you're heading next, because that's how I feel.
gotcha.
Um, and I wasn't sure like how I was going to do it, and if I was going to, you know, hire a professional and stuff. And I was thinking about taking a trip to LA
Mm,
when I was in Nashville and like hiring a professional videographer and stuff. And just the cost of everything, like the
oh,
cost of flights, like flights within the US are really expensive. It was like
mhm,
cheaper to fly back to London, I swear.
yeah.
So flights were really expensive, and then, you know, videographers out in LA are very expensive, and all of
Mm,
this, I was just like, you know what, I don't know if it's worth having like a really professionally shot video for the amount of money it's going to cost.
mhm,
And then like, you know, it would be a lot more freedom if me and my brother just did another road trip
mhm,
and shot some bits and
yeah.
made something fun that way. And he's, you know, then he can do the photography as well. And then I'm not limited on, you know, you'll get 10 photos back from the shoot. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I've got access to the memory card. So I think it was kind of almost an excuse to have another road trip in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's
But it was
you
great
know,
fun.
it's that well, and trying to hire somebody from LA, that's just they're gonna nickel and dime you to death because
Yeah, I just was like, you know what? I don't need it.
you'd have been better off stopping in like Phoenix or something and going like, hey, I need a who wants to take a trip to just stopping in
Yeah.
a city and just picking somebody up. But um just LA's got the oh, we're in Hollywood, so everybody here knows what they're doing. They're the best at get
Yeah.
out of
I
here.
actually went to LA for the first time. Well,
Yeah.
it was kind of the second time, but I'd only been there for like a day before. So
Mm,
we spent a couple of days in LA um in September, and so many people have always said to me like about the traffic,
mhm,
and I never quite got it. I was like, oh yeah, but like there's traffic everywhere, but I didn't quite
yeah,
realize how bad it is. And we spent just so much of our day was just sat in traffic. It's crazy.
yeah. It's a different animal there, but when you're in LA, you're used to it. So
Yeah, it was a shock.
yeah, for sure. So for and this was all for the music video Suitcase. You went on another
Yeah,
road
I
trip,
mean, it was for that, but it was also to just
kind of do it.
be in America and have fun as well.
Yeah, for sure. And then noticed that you're wearing a Brooklyn Nets
Yeah,
sweater
you know
there.
what? This is actually from a shop in the UK. It's actually
Okay.
like a kid's shirt, but
Okay.
it was like really warm. But I did actually see the Nets play
Okay.
in when I was in New York, and they lost. They lost to Miami,
Yeah.
but it was
It,
my first basketball game. It was really fun.
nice. Yeah. It's when I saw that, I was just like, wait a minute. And I was trying to put the math together because you said that you were in upstate New York for like when you were on the ranch, and I was trying to be like, okay, well, let's see. They moved to Brooklyn but she didn't start releasing music until this. Wait a minute, this math doesn't make sense anymore. I don't yeah, so
No, I've just taken a lot of trips to the States.
yeah, gotcha. Um, do you have your next trip planned or do you have aspirations of coming in 2023 or
I don't have any flights booked yet this year, and it's making me very anxious. But I'm definitely thinking about how I can, like, where I'd like to go and how I can afford it. Basically, it's, you know,
yeah.
that's the thing. But I've got a wedding. I'm actually going to a wedding in Puerto Rico
Okay. Nice.
So I've got to plan that trip and work around that and
Yeah.
think where else I'd like to go while I'm out there. So
Yeah. Puerto Rico's fun. It's out in the middle of, it's a far trip. Like even when I flew out of, so my dad used to be a pilot, and one year he was like, "Hey, we're going to Puerto Rico," and I'm like, "Cool." From Florida, because that's where we had to go to Florida to fly there. It was still like a 4-hour flight from
oh,
Florida just to get to Puerto
okay,
Rico. I'm
wow.
like, it's a haul for sure. So, um, but no, Puerto Rico's fun. You'll have, if you've never been, you'll have a blast. So,
Yeah, I'm excited.
so, uh, so before we start wrapping this up, I want to play a fun little game. This is
Okay.
something that we do with every guest that comes on. It used to be called rapid fire randomness, but then it became a lot less rapid fire, but a lot more random. So I think I found a name for this game that's kind of stuck, and it's called That's So Random.
Okay.
So basically, I have a random question generator, and I'm going to just ask you a few really random questions.
And I'm going to try and answer without thinking too much,
That's,
which is going to be a struggle.
yeah, it usually is for a lot of people. So if you're ready, here we are. That's So Random.
Okay.
What is the book you say is your favorite, and what is your actual favorite book?
Oh, wow. I mean, probably the same book. There's a book called The Undomestic Goddess, and it's just this really girly book about this lawyer who like has a crisis and ends up working as a housemaid, but she has no idea how to like do anything. Like she can't cook, she can't clean, she can't even like make toast, and it's just really funny.
Nice. And that question is kind of interesting because it's like, as soon as I read it, I was like, "Yep, I definitely have a book that I tell people that I read, but I've never actually like read."
Oh
So
yeah, I'd like to say something more like intellectual and
yeah.
yeah.
Um, what's one hobby you've always been interested in but never have actually started?
Ooh. Um. Oh, okay. I've always thought it would be really, really cool to be able to skateboard.
Mhm.
I just think it would be such a cool thing to do, and I've never even tried.
Yeah, um, that's fair. Uh, do you feel your parents were too strict or not strict enough growing up?
I think they were a good balance, actually. They were pretty good.
Nice. What behavior instantly kills a conversation?
When someone talks about themselves nonstop.
How many tweets have you put out in the last 6 months?
I have no idea. Not enough.
Not enough.
I go through phases where I'll tweet every day and then I won't tweet for like 4 months.
Would you rather own a skyscraper or a gym?
Oh, a skyscraper.
Okay. I feel like that's not a contest, but
Well, I don't know. Some people might want a gym, but the skyscraper might have a gym in it.
right, fair. Uh, if you could be the voice artist for any cartoon character, who would it be?
Oh, I don't know like a specific cartoon character that I'd want to voice, but I recently watched Sing. You know the Sing movies? Have you seen them?
Yeah, yeah. I've
And I was
heard of
thinking
them.
how
Yeah,
fun it would be to voice someone in a movie like that.
because that's the one that has like all the different musicians doing a bunch of the different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so cool. It has like Tori Kelly. It has Bono actually in it. The second
Oh,
one does.
nice. That's
Cool
because
film.
I remember or what was it? I think it was the second one. Was the second one where they had like Justin Timberlake produce it or something?
Oh, I don't know,
Or
maybe.
because I remember I was watching a lot, like right around the time that the second one came out, I think it was, that everybody was happy with it because it was like a lot more music that adults could stand, whereas like the
Okay.
first one was a bunch of like kiddie
Yeah, I
music or
like the
something.
second one a lot more.
Yeah. And then final question. What was cool when you were a kid but isn't cool now?
Oh, wow. That's a tough question. I mean, a ton of stuff. I'm trying to think of like, I guess there's like certain types of clothing, but it's all coming back, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like flared jeans. Flared jeans was so cool when I was in school.
Yeah.
Like like massive flares, it would swish when you walk and like
Yeah.
soak up all the rain.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're now coming back, so they are cool now.
Actually,
So
kind
I
of
don't know.
funny
That's
when you said that, the first thing that or when I asked the question, the first thing that popped into my mind were Jinko jeans. And they're like super baggy with like wide legs, and some of them had like the flares on it, and it was like, yeah. So it was kind
it's
of
weird.
funny that,
Jeans
yeah.
are such a like a thing. They're such a thing that like there's always like a specific type of jeans that's in.
Yeah, for sure. And I've worn the same type of jeans for 15 years. I've not changed. I've not.
You need to change it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, it's comfortable. I'm not going to skinny jeans. I'm not doing all that stuff.
Whatever you wear, it'll come back in style within like a few years, so it's fine.
I hope so. And then I can just be that cool kid again. But no, so that's so random, and just a fun
That was a
little
good
game to
question.
play. So we talked a little bit about what's coming up. You mentioned that you have you're already thinking about the next releases, singles, working kind of towards that process. But you also have the release show coming up on right? It's on the 27th, or is it
It's on the 31st.
31st?
Yeah. So a few days off.
How often are you out playing shows right now? Is that something you're doing consistently, or?
Not massively. I haven't played a show. When did I last play a show? Sometime last year. So this will be my first show of the year, and I'm excited.
Nice. And so this is the first show of the year. Sorry, morning starting to catch up to me a little bit. So first show of the year, that's awesome. And do you already have more shows booked after that, or is that just kind of the pillar, and then you'll just kind of see where things go from there?
I'm just going to see where things go. I'd obviously love to do festivals, but it's very difficult because I'm not with like management or booking agents or labels, so it's very difficult. But I would really love to play some festivals this year, and I think my absolute dream would be to go on tour as like a support act with another artist. I think that would be so fun. But we shall see how things work out.
Is it what's it like to play out shows in the UK? Is it easy to kind of reach out to venues on your own, or is there still kind of that gatekeeper where it's like, no,
I think it depends.
Okay.
I think it depends what kind of show you're looking for. If you're looking for like small bar gigs, I think it's okay. But if you're looking to like, play a bigger venue or open up to someone, I think a lot of the time they want like, they want to hear from like bookers and
like
agents.
they've got.
I think I don't know.
Yeah, the venues got their contacts of like, hey, these are bookers that we work with, and just kind of a vetting process that they go through. I completely get that. Have you, since you like to come over to the States a lot, have you thought about trying to do like a little tour there? Because I feel like in the States, you still got some of that in like the big arenas, but like some of the bigger, like for the most part, unless you're trying to play a big arena, I feel like you could still book a pretty decent tour by yourself.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to do a US tour, but I'd need a visa.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's like $6,000, I hear.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe not just yet.
Yeah, that's fair. I tend to forget about that because it's like
I think it's a way for you guys to come over here.
It's
like I've met a couple of artists that came over and they were like, oh yeah, it cost me like 300 to do this, and for me it would be like thousands.
Yeah, that's not fair. I don't like that's I've never tried to work internationally. I've like tried to do a couple of internships and whatnot, but it never got to the point where it was like, oh hey, like we're actually going to give you this job. We need to figure out how to get you over here and make it legal and all that stuff. But so yeah,
that's the dream then.
Yeah, for sure. So then just kind of moving forward outside of music, what are you into? What do you do to kind of decompress?
Well, obviously traveling is my main thing in life. I've got into painting recently. Actually, since lockdown, I think I saw like loads of people putting their amazing artwork on TikTok, and I was like, oh wow, I would really like to learn how to paint. So I got some watercolors, and I'm really into watercolor painting now.
Nice.
That's something I find really relaxing. I like baking, um, and I really love like nature and animals.
Nice. So it all kind of plays into the traveling, nature, animals, painting.
Yeah,
That's something that you can kind of do anywhere. And then baking. I mean, yeah, that's awesome.
always need baked goods.
Oh yes, oh yes. I've just recently fell in love with not fell in love, but refell in love with the idea, or with like making cookies and all the like the
Oh,
baked
really?
goods and stuff. So it's not something that I can do very often, but like when I get a chance to sit down and like dedicate a Saturday to something, it's like, yeah, that's fun. So
It's a really nice, just like relaxing way to spend time.
yeah, unless you burn your cookies, and then it's
Right.
just like, this is infuriating. So, but it is what it is. Um, that if anybody wants to check out your music or interact with you on social or any of that fun stuff, where's the best place to find you?
So I'm Vic Allen Music on everything, I think, all social media. So I can be found on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok.
Yes.
Is it?
Awesome.
Is that all of them? YouTube.
Yep. Yeah, that's all the major social media platforms, I think. Unless you're into yeah, I think those are all the major ones. I was sitting here, I was like, what's the other one? And then I realized that nobody
I feel
really
like
uses.
there's obviously Spotify and everything as
Yeah.
well.
And I was like, wait, nobody really uses Tumblr anymore. I don't even know if that's a thing. So
No, I never
yeah.
had it.
Oh, you never had it?
But is it still going?
Supposedly. Um, like I still see, like when I'm like routing, like when I go in to share stuff, I still see it pop up
Oh,
from time
really?
to time as like an option, but I didn't know it was still a thing that people use. So
Oh, wow. I didn't either.
yeah. So yeah, that's always an interesting thing. And then right before we leave, I do want to ask you, what piece of advice do you have for the young musicians out there?
Oh, okay. I would say get to know a lot of people, like network a lot with people in your music scene. It's really important, and it makes it easier, like having friends that do the same thing, and make music that you love. Don't try and like make something you think will be popular, because then if that's successful, that's what you're gonna have to do forever,
Mm,
and you'll hate your life.
yeah, for sure. 100% agreed. But once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the day goes now that like my brain is fully awake and I'm not going into work as a
But
zombie.
you can switch off now.
Yeah, for sure. But once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been an absolute blast. We'd love to have you back on anytime. Thank you for everybody. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. If you're not following Vic Allen, make sure you do that. I put her Spotify profile in the comment thread, and then if you're listening on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify afterwards, I put it in the description below. So feel free to check out any of her music, subscribe, follow, like whatever it is you do on Spotify. And then also, if you want to continue to support Live and Amplified, liveandamplified.net is our website. You could find all our socials, everything that we do right there. I tried to make it as easy as possible because social media wasn't quite as
Minefield.
nice to us, where we didn't get the same handle for everything. So, um, but once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it. And we
Thanks for
will
having
see
me.
you all later.
See you soon.
Cool.